pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose. And that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people. And it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation, and justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others, for all.
Welcome to Daryl's Little Corner. We'll be with you every Monday from 7 to 8. Tonight with me is Ripley Mayor Chris Marsailles.
Hello, Daryl.
Hi. That's who you've been watching, and the reason for this intro is to show how involved he is in what goes on in Ripley. There's something going on, you'll find him there.
We try to be
there. You really
there.
do. You don't miss much. You've become kind of a regular here.
I have. Thank you.
You got over being scared.
Yeah, not as nervous. Not as nervous. Never know
anymore.
what's coming, but
No, never do. Never know. But it's maybe you'll be a TV star.
Well, thank you.
That might be your next job.
Maybe so.
How about
Maybe
that?
so.
How
Maybe
about
so.
that? Tonight we've got several things to talk about. First, I can't really take credit for all this. I've had a lot of input and people, telling me what they want to know.
Mm.
I'd say I'm going to talk to the mayor, and they say, well, ask him this, ask him that.
Okay.
So that's what we're going to ask. So
Right.
a lot of these questions are not mine.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, that's a disclaimer. You got
Okay.
it. You got it. I'm not
Okay.
claiming on to this stuff.
Okay.
But there's several things we need to know. Now, everybody wants to know about the new liquor law. Let's talk about that first.
Okay.
Okay, how do you feel about it?
Well, the people have spoken, and I have to respond to the wishes of the majority of the people that voted. And an interesting fact is that more people came out to vote on this one issue than voted in the general election, by almost 600 people. So it's a very important issue,
Yes,
obviously,
it
to our
is.
city. And there are a lot of strong feelings on both sides. And in my role as mayor, I have to respond to the will of the people in as much as I can. And so that's what we'll do.
Okay. On a personal, when you're an official, nothing's personal. We know who your wife is. Now we have a picture of your grandchild. Nothing's off limits to an official. So heaven help you, son. Do you drink?
It's from time to time I have partaken socially.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, when people drink, they go out and they buy this stuff. How much taxes do we actually get off of it?
On anything that gets sold in the city of Ripley, the city gets 18.5% of the 7% sales tax that is collected. So,
Which figures to what?
well, we created a budget this year that is coming up. Our budget budget year ends September 30th, and so we will put forth a new budget for the 13-14 fiscal year. And we're anticipating, based on discussions that we've had with other towns and with the distributors and with any place that we can find information, we're anticipating and we're budgeting about $3,000 a month revenues to the city strictly from alcohol sales.
Okay, you're getting 15%,
We get 18.5%
18.5.
of the 7%.
Okay, on $1,000, what would that figure to?
It's about $12.90, somewhere right in there.
You're gonna fix all these roads for $12.90.
Well, the city gets about,
Gonna be a lot of liquor sold, isn't it?
well, we're anticipating some. I don't know how much.
Well,
That's really,
you've got to consider, like at New Albany, Potts Camp, people that drink or care to purchase a bottle, they have to go over there and get it.
right.
All right, it's already there. They're not coming over here to buy liquor. So all you're going to get is people in Tippah County that drink, because everybody else got their own.
Probably so.
So it might not be that much.
May not be.
I don't know.
Remains to be seen. Really
Yeah.
can't predict, but
Well, we're just guessing. I
we
mean,
have,
you can't predict the future.
Ripley's a very busy little town.
Yes, it
We
is.
have about
It is.
anywhere from $100,000 to $120,000 a month that comes in to the city on sales tax revenue of all sorts. And that
Which sounds like a lot, but really, when you start fixing things and do it's not really, is it?
right. So it's a small portion of our annual
Yes.
budget. However, my point is to generate $100,000 in revenue for the city. That's a tremendous amount of sales on a monthly basis. And so Ripley is currently already doing that. So it's an amazing fact how much commerce we do have in our town.
Uh-huh. Okay, where will this be sold? I mean, like,
So the way that it'll
who's going to be allowed to sell it?
people who desire to sell these new products will apply through the Mississippi Alcohol Beverage Control for liquor, and they'll apply through the Mississippi Department of Revenue for beer. And those places, the city will enforce its zoning ordinances and only allow those in commercial areas that are zoned commercial.
Then it's not really all up to you.
No,
That's up to the
very little of it is up to the
Well.
mayor and the board of aldermen.
Uh-huh.
Very little of it. We do set the distances on beer. The distances, when I say distances, that's going to be distance from schools,
That was
churches,
another
funeral homes,
question,
and all
yes.
that. And our ordinance will probably follow along with several other cities in our area that have been successful. They set that at 200 feet. The state law for liquor is 100 feet. If both addresses are in a commercial zone, it's 400 feet if one of them is in residential.
Okay, if 200 feet from a school? Well, that would be, what is that, from the edge of the school property or the building?
It's nearest point of building to nearest point of building is how Mississippi ABC.
Building to building.
That's how they measure, from overhead, like.
Then
area.
say if a convenience store or the tobacco store on the corner decided to sell it, which they probably won't, they could sell it right there under the hill from the school.
I don't think. I don't.
Oh, I don't think
I
they
think
will,
they're
but
too
I mean,
close.
are they too close?
I think they're too close.
I just wondered, well, they'd be too close to that ball field, but now you got that whole road. and-
Event center over there.
Event center.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be too close to the event center, I think.
Yeah, I guess they would. I guess it would. I was just thinking, you know, that's very close to our children, you know. But what about churches?
Same distance.
Same
Same.
distances.
It's
Okay.
churches,
Okay.
schools,
Then-
daycares, funeral homes, kindergartens. They're all excluded.
So if somebody puts in for a tax, one of those permits, you're gonna have to check their distances and,
The city doesn't
got to
check the
make it
distance.
do
The state has enforcement personnel
Oh.
that they come out and they have investigators that come out and it'll be part of the application process to verify that the location is acceptable.
the state's
First.
pretty involved in this.
They
then,
are. The
aren't
state really maintains
Yeah.
almost complete control of alcohol sales. In fact, all the liquor
Well,
and
how
wine
come we
that's
blame
sold,
you?
I don't know.
Wait there.
All the liquor and wine that's sold in the state of Mississippi is sold by the state of Mississippi.
You need to put a sign up in front of the courthouse, you know, it says check with the state.
The state of Mississippi
State's fault.
purchases all the liquor and wine that goes for sale in the state and then resells it to the permit holders. And they mark it up 25% before
Oh.
they sell it to the permit holders. So the state of Mississippi is the biggest liquor business in the state. They sell it to the permit holders, to all the liquor stores. They all buy them from the state, by state law.
Oh, that's why they want it sold in all the towns then. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Well, the state makes more money.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I wondered about that. Okay, how will it be sold? Will it be sold by the drink?
There there's two kinds of permit for liquor and for beer. It's called on-premise and off-premise. So if you get a permit to sell on-premise, then you can sell in a restaurant setting by the drink, liquor or wine by the drink. If it's an off-premise license, that would be like a package store, where you're not allowed to sell it by the drink. If you have a restaurant and you want to sell beer by the drink in your restaurant, then you have to get an on-premise beer permit, and there's a thing for that. And if you are just a convenience store, grocery store, something like that, you want to sell beer, then 50% of your gross annual revenue has to come from other sources, and then the distance regulations apply. And
Oh, then they can't just say I'm a restaurant and just shovel beer out the door. They
Nope,
can't do
not
that.
allowed. If
Okay,
you
it's got
have an
to-
on-premise permit,
Uh-huh.
you can't sell for off-premise consumption.
That's just.
It's
you know.
pretty ticky, all this stuff. I
Yeah.
had no idea about any of this stuff before the vote passed. I didn't expect it to pass, and it did. So we've become experts on all these things, and so we're just trying to do the best we can with what we've got here.
How much is your sign going to cost to go in front that says, "Don't ask me, ask the state"?
I'm open for questions anytime. That's my job.
Oh, I would put up a sign.
I have
Oh.
and I have answered many
Yes,
questions.
I imagine you have. Bless your heart. Okay, how are you going to prevent having like a juke joint on every corner?
Well, a big deterrent to that is going to be the requirement that 50% of sales come from other sources. And so you can't open a place that's just an alcohol joint. You'll have to have some other sources of revenue going on. You'll have to sell food. If you're going to sell liquor by the drink, the Mississippi ABC is going to require 30% of your annual revenue comes from food sales. Before they'll issue your license to sell it by the drink, you're going to have a commercial kitchen, commercial refrigeration, commercial food production area. The 30% for restaurants does not count for food that's prepared elsewhere and brought in to be sold. So there's a good many restrictions.
doesn't?
So
Okay.
it'll have to be a legitimate restaurant business that receives the majority of its money, of its income from serving food to people. So that would be a major deterrent, is that you can't have a place and that's all you do. The only exception to that would be a package store, which is only for on-premise consumption, and so it's just a package store where people would be able to go in, purchase what they want, and leave and take it home and consume it. a beer store, you're not going to have even something that's just a beer store because of the requirement that a certain percentage of the income comes from other sources.
Something else.
So,
Now, I stopped in another town to get a soda. I stopped at a convenience store. You go in the door, there's stacks of beer and stacks of beer and stacks of beer, and when you wade through that, you go to the back, and there is a little cooler that has soda. They sold bread and, I mean, you know, a few little things that was mostly liquor and beer. Can that happen here?
well, to my knowledge, you can't have liquor and beer sold at the same location.
Oh, really?
Unless you're a restaurant and you have both licenses.
Uh-huh.
So you're not going to have liquor and beer stacked up. Another interesting fact is that according to the state of Mississippi, beer is not technically an alcoholic beverage. It's just beer,
It's not an alcoholic beverage.
according to the state laws.
Oh,
So now, part of the
I didn't know that.
part of the thing that and just doing my job as mayor,
Yes.
this thing passed, and wanted to meet with as many as I could, involved parties, and so the distributors who would be working this area met with me, requested a meeting. I said, okay, sure, let's talk. And they have told me that they don't want to sell their product into any of these situations that people are afraid of.
Mhm.
They don't want any of the problems associated with sale of their product. And they have told me that that's bad for their business and they're not interested in doing it. They've also said they're going to work with city officials to make this product available in as sensitive a way as is possible to avoid having some of the problems that people are afraid could erupt.
Well, what happens is like I don't drink. All right. If somebody else drinks, that's their business, but I don't, and you know I have rights too. Is this going to be sold? Say, look at the church folks. Is this going to be sold on Sunday?
That remains to be seen.
Oh.
Alcohol, liquor, and wine, no. That's regulated by the state unless somebody makes a special application, and that may or may not happen. I don't see it happening.
But it could be sold on Sunday.
It could be.
Mhm.
There's a provision in the state law for it to be sold on Sunday.
Mhm.
Package stores will never be open on Sunday or Christmas Day
But beer could be because it's not alcohol.
because it's technically not an alcoholic beverage according to the state of Mississippi.
Okay. I understand that this is beer and wine. What actually is wine? Is that just a fancy way to say whiskey?
No, so beer.
Now you know I don't drink.
Beer is beer's a product of fermented grain, wheat, barley, that sort of thing. Light wine, as defined in the Mississippi Code, is usually it's a very weak wine that's 5% alcohol content or less, and so that's what you would usually see marketed as a wine cooler. Now, wine, as we're all used to hearing the term used, is the product of fermented fruit, grapes, or elderberry or blackberry or whatever, and it's always been legal in the state of Mississippi to produce your own wine at home as much as you wanted to for your own consumption, regardless of what the local laws were. But wine as sold in liquor store is going to be your wines, your various red wines, white wines that people normally think of when they say wine. And then you got liquor, which is distilled spirit, and where they take fermented grain, corn or potatoes or whatever, and then they distill it and basically turn it into a nearly pure alcohol product.
Oh. The beer's not as strong as
Right.
whiskey.
Right.
I don't know.
Ounce for ounce is not as strong.
As you say, they'll be able to buy like a glass of was it a glass or a cup or whatever of beer with a meal at a restaurant, but it wouldn't, but would they, so I don't even know the terminology. I don't know.
Possibly, if any of the restaurants end up applying
That's
for that
pit.
permit and decide they want to do that,
Uh-huh.
the
Well, you
answer
know,
is yes.
eventually they will, eventually.
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Probably so.
I
But
mean,
there-
there's
you know,
money in it, and people want it, people drink, it's legal,
Right.
you know, it's, so, yeah, I feel like sooner or later, I mean,
Yeah.
probably not at first, 'cause
Probably not at first. We'll see.
uh-huh. But more likely, as it goes on, you're gonna have more people looking at, you know, this money-wise, you know, financially, as profitable.
Yeah. Now we have heard. I've been involved with city organizations like Main Street and Historic Preservation and zoning board and some of the other things that. And in those meetings and things, we'd go to state meetings. We'd talk to other people, and the Restaurateurs Association. I'll tell you that a restaurant stands a much higher chance of being sustainable if there's alcohol sales available. Now, we've had a number of restaurants in Ripley that have done just fine without it, and so I you know, it'll be up to them, of course, but you know, just remains to be seen whether they'll go through the paperwork and go through all the trouble to get the permit.
Well, I mean, if someone's used to having a glass of wine with their meal, I guess they'd go where they sold it.
Presumably, they. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I go where I like what they sell. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I think most people do that. Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know. So I mean, it would be financially feasible. It really would. Tell me something. Let's talk about the limits. Is there a limit to how much you can buy at a time?
I don't know. I don't really know whether there is or not. I think there probably is, but I don't know what it is. I would think it would be. I don't know.
Or is it just up to the people selling it to say, when, look, bud, you've had enough?
Well, there's. Well, no, it's against state law to serve alcohol to a person who's obviously intoxicated. That's against the law.
Obviously. What is, I mean, such as
You know, presumably
falling over on the
falling
table?
over,
or?
slurring a speech, or you
I
know,
don't know.
not able to comport themselves properly. That whoever sells to someone in that condition is at risk of losing their liquor license.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody that sells to anybody underage is at risk of losing their license. Anybody that
Oh, they card you.
absolutely. So that's another thing. You know, Ripley and Tippah County's had alcohol in it for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And so this is not a new product for our county or our city. What's happened is that now that kind of the cover's ripped off, now the city can enforce underage drinking laws. Now the city can enforce open container possession laws. Now the city can enforce and regulate its presence in our city, whereas before we had basically, you know, no controls other than it's all illegal. Everybody's in trouble if you have it, and so it's kind of opened the door for us to be able to control some of these things that have been out of control, and we can actually make some moves to improve some of the situation, particularly with underage drinking and some of that sort of thing.
Well, it's going to be like, I know when you sell cigarettes, I worked in a convenience store, and you have to card everybody.
Right. So,
And truly, if you don't card somebody and they're brought in there underage, it's not the store in trouble, it's you.
right.
I carded everybody. I
Yeah.
don't care if they were 90 years old.
Yeah.
I'd go to jail for nobody.
Well, that's the safe thing to do. And
I
obviously, nobody wants alcohol in the hands of our young people.
That's right.
Anybody underage. And so the city will do everything in its power to make sure that that's enforced.
And it would be kind of like that, wouldn't it?
It would.
Yeah.
It would.
Okay, how much can you possess at a time before they decide you're maybe buying it up to sell? I don't imagine the bootleggers were happy about this.
Well,
Was that a bad subject?
There's a joke that I've heard all along that this is the one issue that the churches and the bootleggers would be on the same side of it.
Yeah.
And everything else they'd be on
Yes.
opposite sides. But I don't know that. I have no idea about the bootlegger market or what anything. I don't know anything about all that stuff. But there's probably some amount that a retailer wouldn't be allowed to sell. But I don't have any idea what that.
To one person.
Yeah, to one person. I don't know what that.
I just wondered about that. And if you live in the county, all right, that's going to be sold in the city is wet, but the county's dry, isn't it?
That's right.
Okay, if you lived in the county and you were on your way home, were you going to get arrested?
It's going to be up to the sheriff and the deputies, but I don't know. It'd
That's
be
something to think about.
in the county. It's just like it always was. There's plenty of it out there, but it's against the law.
That's something to think about. You come into Ripley and you buy your stuff and you start home. Used to they would sit right on the, on the highway in Mississippi and pick them up coming in from Tennessee.
Yeah.
It may be that same kind of situation because now people that drink are, to excess. I'm not talking about somebody that has a glass of wine with dinner. I'm talking about people that drink to excess. They're not going to hang around in town where they know you're going to get them. They're going to come out and hide out on a back road somewhere, and they're not going home where their wife's going to get all over them.
Right,
Really.
I'm really unfamiliar with that dynamic, but
I think that's going to be a difficulty.
the
I don't know.
I mean the laws of
But I
of
think.
Tippah County have not changed, and so Ripley voters have, by a margin of about 12%, voted for the city to be wet, and so that's the case. But the county, nothing has changed in the county.
So if you buy it in Ripley, you better stay in Ripley because that sheriff pick you up in the county, huh?
He could.
That's what laughing.
He
Yeah.
could.
Well, I mean, that's one way that they're, the fines. There'll be a lot of fines, when people are really just going home.
Yeah. Well,
Now, some of this isn't really exactly fair, is it?
I think that.
I'm not saying I was for it, because it wasn't, but
understand.
now it's
I
still, it's
understand
not
what you're
hardly
saying.
fair.
I think that this change is not going
I
to
don't
create
know.
new drinkers, and I think that it's not going to stop anybody from drinking that wasn't. If people are not going to
Yeah.
change their ways,
Grown
whether it's
people.
wet or dry.
Grown people won't.
Yeah,
Mhm.
more than likely, because the evidence is all over the sides of the road.
That's right.
That
that's right.
There's plenty of alcohol here already.
Read the paper,
Yeah, and
Read
so,
the paper. Yeah.
I
Got
feel
where it
like
lists the
the
court
law
stuff,
enforcement in the county is going to continue to
Yes.
do things the way that they always have, and law enforcement in the city. Basically, there's just one thing that's legal now that wasn't legal, and that's possession of alcohol. And so,
Yeah, if you live in town, they won't get you on the way home.
right,
Unless you wobble
if
around.
if you're intoxicated or you got an open container, you're gonna get picked up.
Open container.
Not allowed to have an open container in a vehicle.
That means like if you,
Open can of beer, open bottle of whiskey, open jug of wine, or whatever that you've got. Not allowed to be open.
You better keep that stuff shut.
Whether you're driving
I didn't know that.
or riding, whether you're a passenger or the driver or what, it's not allowed to have an open container, and so they'll pick you up for that.
Oh, well, now that makes sense, though. That makes sense.
Well, we want people to, if they want to drink, go home and drink.
Act right.
Don't be on the roads.
Yeah, just
do-
act right.
Yeah, just act right.
Don't drive crazy.
Keep-
Don't wobble.
keep
If you're in
yourself-
city limits, don't wobble.
Right.
They will blue light you in a minute. Already been there and done that.
Have they blue lighted you?
Oh,
Were you drinking?
Yes. No, Tate was
Cough
reaching.
medicine?
No, Tate was reaching through the steering wheel to turn a switch
Oh, okay.
because he didn't think I could do it right.
Distracted driving. That causes more
True.
accidents.
Husband driving.
Cell
That's
phones,
what.
cell phones, food, radio. That causes
Husbands.
husbands cause more accidents than
I told
anything
him,
else.
he run around telling everybody I was blue light. I said, no, Tate was blue light. It was just my license.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it was terrible.
I'm
It was
glad
terrible.
they-
I was embarrassed to death.
Glad they didn't pick you up though.
No, he let me go.
That's nice of him.
He probably looked at me and said, "This poor stupid thing, let her go." But it was raining, and he reached through to get the windshield wiper switch. He didn't think I had it set right. And of course, bumped the steering wheel. And there we
you
were.
go.
Yep. And naturally, they
Was
were
it
right behind me.
Ripley police officer?
Yeah, between
Okay.
here and
Okay.
town,
Well,
between the station
I'm
and
glad
town.
they're doing their job.
They're doing their job.
Keeping safe drivers under control.
I just truly, I truly do appreciate. And he was so nice.
Good.
He was so nice to me.
Good.
He didn't say, "Look, you stupid thing, what are you doing wobbling around?"
Well, I would hope not.
He should have. Yes. But okay, what is the criteria to decide if you are drunk? Aside from falling over on the table.
I think that it is a .08 blood alcohol content, and that is the legal limit to be driving in the state of Mississippi.
Will our
.08 or I think if you're at .08, you're intoxicated. If you're below that, you're not.
will our officers be equipped with the stuff
Yes.
to check whatever it is they
More-
check it
yes,
with?
yes.
If he don't keep his hand off that light switch, they'll be
If
checking
they-
me.
That's right. They make you blow in that thing too.
Oh, wouldn't it be awful? Embarrassing.
I hope nobody's
Embarrassing.
there with a camera.
Oh, for sure, for sure. That's and I don't walk too good to start with. I'd be wobbling. Oh, mercy.
Yeah.
Is it still? It is still against the law if they're drinking in public.
Yes.
Just drunk in public.
Yeah, well,
Like at a ball game.
See, the
or-
open container law is going to apply to sidewalks, streets.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to be prohibited on any public property, any school, So any public property, any street, any sidewalk, any school, no drinking allowed, no alcohol allowed.
Okay, so they can drink in a restaurant,
Right,
or they can drink at their house.
right.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay. How do you get from the restaurant to the house without going to jail?
Well, it's legal inside the state.
Oh, just don't have one open.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't take one home with you.
All right, don't open it on the way home.
Okay.
Wait till you
Okay.
get there.
And someone told me to ask you, can it be voted back out
It
if
can.
the people decide?
There's according to the state law, which I've just learned all this, I believe that I'm going from memory, but one of them is 2 years, one of them is 5 years. And beer and liquor are treated differently because beer is not an alcoholic beverage, it's beer. And so, according to the state of
yeah.
Mississippi. And but I think it's I believe it's 5 years for liquor. Can't bring it up for a vote again for 5 years. And I believe it's 2 years for beer. I believe that's right, but I'm not positive. That's all available. Some of the state websites, you can look it up. But the same process that allowed it to become legal could take things back the other way if people followed the law. And in our great constitutional form of government where people are allowed to vote and have their voices heard, they can certainly do that.
It needs to be handled in a right manner. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to maintain decorum. We don't want our town to look any different the day after than it did the day before. And your city officials and your police department are going to work very hard to make sure that things are done properly.
And if you're going down the road, don't be wobbling.
Don't
wobble.
Don't be wobbling.
Oh, don't wobble. Don't have anything open. Nothing open. Right?
Right. That's
Okay.
right.
And when the guy at the restaurant says that's it, just say yes, sir, and go home.
That's right. That's right.
That's kind of the deal,
That's
isn't
the
it?
deal.
But now, if you start out from a restaurant and you live out in the county, then that's not a good thing, is it?
Probably not. Probably not a good thing. You're just gonna have to take care of it. The best thing to do is get somebody else to drive you that hadn't been drinking. Best thing to do.
Oh.
They call that a designated driver.
Oh.
in outings where people are going to go out and consume alcohol. Typically, one or more will not, and they'll be the drivers.
Oh, okay. This is all new to me. It's new to Tippah County.
Sure.
You know, I don't reckon there's any question too dumb to ask except the one you miss. But it
Right.
just, I've had the thought, how is this going to change our town?
Yeah.
What is going to be when, say, strangers come here and visit our stores.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I went in that store and I had to climb over these stacks and you couldn't hardly get through the aisle, and I thought, man, I don't think I even want a soda from here.
I
So
think
I would hate to see that
we're
happen here.
gonna try to keep as much as is in our power to keep that sort of environment from being allowable here in Ripley. That'll be one of the things. If it's for cold beer sales, if there's a place in the back of the store, we're not going to allow signage on the front of the store. We're not going to allow any advertising that's visible from the street to be seen. And if it's cold beer, then it's going to be back in the back in one of those big coolers. And so really, most people that drink beer not interested in hot beer if cold beer is available.
Yeah.
And so the retailers will probably pick up on all that and keep the warm hot beer up out of the floors, and whatever they have, if they decide to sell it, would be in the back. And people that didn't want to look at it and be around it
Don't have to go back there.
probably wouldn't
That's
ever
right.
know.
You don't have to go back there.
You don't have to.
If you don't like it, don't go back where it's at.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
that's what
I
I've
realized
seen.
they couldn't put signs on the front.
We're gonna
realize
in the
that.
ordinance there'll be no advertising for beer in the beer ordinance. On the liquor ordinance, obviously the retailer would have to let people know. They can
I'll be
name
on
their
that.
store
Yeah.
wine and spirits or something along those lines, and but
Well, if you didn't like it, you're just not
as
going to
far
go
as
in there.
the whole
Yeah.
town of Ripley getting plastered with Bud Light signs, this is just not going to happen.
Well, people are concerned about that.
understand they are.
Because they've asked me about it,
I understand that.
I let it be
Yeah.
known that I was going to talk to you, and
Yeah.
that's the first thing that's on their
Yeah.
mind,
Yeah. It's just you'll see more ads on your TV than you'll see in Ripley.
What about in like circulars that stores send out?
I don't know on that one.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, we'll
I
see
don't know
what
if that
happens.
covers that one or not.
Okay.
I think it's mostly about signage at your location.
Okay, well, you still have one friend left in town. Probably just one apiece. Let's talk about possibilities for Ripley a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You built a park,
Yes. we
big
did.
park,
We
big
did.
park, beautiful. Okay, is there any chances of this park ever offering something for the older youth? I mean, you're seeing really the young people out there. What about the older, say, 19, 20 years old, just getting out of high school?
We intend to have some. That they would be adults if they're
Oh.
over 18
Well,
or
what
older.
about adults?
We're looking at, of course, we're happy to do anything people want to do. And so when we have a sign up for adult softball or adult soccer or whatever, enough people have to sign up and pay for it in order to have a league. And so
Yeah.
any of those things that people want to do, and go sign up for it once it's made available. We've talked about doing adult softball and adult soccer, and we'll just see where it goes. But there's a difference between making it available and people taking you up on it.
That's right. That's right,
And,
too.
as with most things. So we're happy to do whatever, use that park for whatever people want to do out there, within reason. But some good news, we have through some private donations from the Fortier family and from others, and through a sponsorship agreement with the People's Bank, we've secured the funding to go ahead and build the playground out there, and to go ahead and
That's
build
great.
a pavilion right next to it. So it'll be so you can have some shade out there in the pavilion, have restrooms in it, have a nice playground facility. And we're going to get started on that in the next couple of weeks. And then hopefully first part of October, if the weather will hold and it'll stay warm enough, we'll finish paving. And then if it's too cool, then we'll wait and finish paving first thing in the spring as soon as the weather gets warms back up. But when people go back out there next year, of course, we do have youth football. Tippah County Youth Football League's playing out there this fall. And we'll have youth soccer also playing out there. We'll have a baseball tournament October 18th that weekend. So that'll be 7 and under through 14 and under tournament scheduled. And right now, that's all that I know of that's scheduled. But we'll have the winter, and it's going to be kind of a little bit cool. May get some adult league soccer or something like that going, and then it'll pick back up with baseball in the spring.
Now, I asked what people would like to see in Ripley, and one lady said, was there any chance of getting something like a miniature golf course in Ripley?
Well, that would be a private enterprise sort of thing. And there was one at one time, I think it was down there near where Daylight Donuts is now, somewhere in there. Somebody tried to do that down there on the side of the highway several years ago. And it made it a couple of months, and went out of business because not enough people wanted to play. And then there was a place up on the square 3 or 4 years ago in there on the north east corner of the square, and they had an indoor putt golf place. And he was selling hamburgers and Cokes and putt golf, and now he made it a couple of months. So it takes a lot of people wanting to pay to do something to try to make a business case out of it. And so putt golf is one of those things it's fun, it's neat to look at, but there's apparently not much money in it as far as owning it and running it for a business, that not enough people want to come play.
Well, those that want to maybe can't pay for it.
Maybe
and
so.
Those that can are not that interested.
Yeah. So
I thought maybe, is there not a golf course out on 4?
there is country club.
I just thought, well, if people wanted this miniature, maybe it could be done through that.
I have been to golf courses that they did have a miniature golf range, and they can be really interesting and nice, but you've got to have demand for it. It's expensive to build it, and people always worry about getting something built, but once you build something, you have to maintain it, and that's where the ongoing money comes in. That's you need to be making some money to be able to afford to maintain it. So.
Well, that's
But just to get them up here from the Pine Hill Country Club on TV and ask them about their miniature golf.
That's a good idea.
Just get them on
good
up
idea.
here.
Good idea.
See what
We'd like to see some more activity in Ripley, more opportunities, keep people at home, not have to go to other towns for their entertainment.
Yeah, well, and there's always people who are interested in starting things like that. When I was on the Economic Restructuring Committee on the Main Street Association several years ago, movie theater is one of the things that people said they would support. And so there were some individuals who were looking into it, but everybody knows if you go to the movie, you have to pay $5 for a Coke.
That's right.
And, the studios get the majority of the ticket sales. So there's a lot of things that would be nice to have, but you really got to have a lot of money to get them to go, and you got to make money.
That's the bottom line, is money.
It's always one of the top two questions. It's not always the most important, but it's always in the top two.
Well, we have run slap out of time.
You got more questions.
I know it, but I'm out of time. I do appreciate you coming.
I'm happy to come anytime.
And we'll have to have you back and finish up.
Okay.
We've enjoyed this hour together. Don't forget the Jeter Family Program, Saturday night at 7 o'clock. I do hope you'll tune us in again next Monday at 7 for Daryl's Little Corner. May God bless. Thank you.
Sure. You're welcome.